Welcome to tonight's video on simplifying complex fractions. Remember, a complex fraction is basically when you have a fraction over a divided by a fraction. Couple steps. First, we want to simplify the numerator and denominator separately. So we'll do this this problem here. We'll skip this one for the purpose of the video. So the numerator here is z minus 1 over z. So we need a common denominator, and the common denominator is z. So that means, if you imagine there's a 1 there for the denominator, that means you're going to multiply both the top and bottom by z here. Here you, excuse me, here you don't need anything, so you just subtract. So you have z minus 1 over z. That is what the numerator simplifies to. The denominator, you have 1 over 1 minus z. Once again, imagine there's a 1 in the denominator. So you multiply top and bottom by z here to get the common denominator. So you have z minus 1 over z. Step 2 is you're going to divide the fraction. So right now, notice you have z minus 1 over z over z minus 1 over z. Actually, sorry, you have z squared minus 1 over z minus 1 over z. So now when you divide the fractions, remember you divide, you multiply by the reciprocal. So you get z squared minus 1 over z times z over z minus 1. Factoring, so then we're going to factor and simplify. So by factoring, z minus 1 becomes z squared minus 1 becomes z minus 1, z plus 1. The rest of them stay the same. So now, what we're going to do is cancel. So we can cancel the z's and the z minus 1, and then we're left with z plus 1 as our final answer. Alright, so this next one here, notice first we have to negative positive them to the bottom of a fraction. We have 1 over 1 over y. We have 1 over x plus 1 over y. We get a common denominator here, so we're going to multiply by y, and here we're going to multiply by x. So you get y over xy minus x over xy over, and then here we're going to multiply by y, and here an x. Sorry, here we're going to multiply by y, and here by x. So we get y over xy plus x over xy. So when we combine, we get y minus x over xy over xy plus x over xy. Now we're at the stage where we can divide. So we get y minus x over xy times, actually I'll move it down here. So we get y minus x over xy times the reciprocal, which is xy over y plus x. And then they cancel out, and you're left with y minus x over y plus x. So this one here, same philosophy. You have 1 over x squared minus 1 over y squared over 1 over x plus 1 over y. Here you'd multiply by y squared, top and bottom. Here you'd multiply by x squared, top and bottom. So you get y squared minus x squared over x squared y squared. And then here you multiply by y, and here you multiply by x to get the common denominator. So it would be y plus x over xy. Then remember you are going to divide, which means you multiply by the reciprocal. Now, here you can factor. So it becomes y minus x and y plus x because it's a difference of two squares. And then you can cancel the y plus x's. You can cancel the xy here with one of them there. So your final answer, and we'll bring it all the way over here, your final answer is y minus x over xy. All right, this next one, it's raised to the negative first power. So basically it's 1 over this whole thing, which means basically you can take the reciprocal. So this moves to the top and this moves to the bottom. So it's going to be x to the negative second plus 2 times xy to the negative first plus y squared over x to the negative second minus y to the negative second. So to the negative first power just means to take the reciprocal or flip it. Then we can make these positive. So we have 1 over x squared plus 2 times xy, or sorry, 2 over xy, because the xy go to the bottom because of the negative 1, plus 1 over y squared, over 1 over x squared minus 1 over y squared. Then remember, your job is to get a common denominator. Well, here it would be x, you'd have to multiply by y squared, because it'd be x squared, y squared. So you get y squared, and then here you have to multiply times xy. So you get 2xy over x squared, y squared, plus, and then here you have to multiply by x squared, over, and then here you have to multiply by y squared. Here you have to multiply by x squared to get the common denominator. And it's y squared minus x squared over x squared, y squared. All right, so then you combine that into one fraction. So you get y squared plus 2xy plus x squared over x squared, y squared. And then when you divide, you're going to flip this. So it's going to be x squared, y squared over y squared minus x squared. Then you have to factor. Well, x squared times y squared does not factor. Y minus x times y plus x is the difference of two squares. And then here, it's going to be y plus x times y plus x. That'll give you y squared plus 2xy plus x squared, because the factors of 1 that add to 2 are 1 and 1. When you cancel, notice the x squareds, y squareds cancel out, so you're just left with y plus x over y minus x. All right, last but not least, this one's a little more complicated. To get a common denominator here, you have to multiply by x plus y, top and bottom. And here you'd have to multiply by x minus y, top and bottom. When you FOIL here, you get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared minus x squared minus 2xy plus y squared all over x plus y times x minus y. That's the numerator. For the denominator, same thing. Here you have to multiply by x plus y. Here you have to multiply by x minus y, top and bottom. So notice you get x squared plus 2x. Sorry, this should be a plus y. So you get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared minus x squared minus 2xy plus y squared when you FOIL there over x plus y times x minus y. Now you could distribute the negative sign in here. So you get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared minus x squared plus 2xy minus y squared. And notice the x squareds cancel out, the y squareds cancel out, and you're left with 4xy over x plus y times x minus y. The same thing would apply here, because notice they're exactly the same thing. So you have 4xy over x plus y and x minus y. And notice when you divide, you multiply by the reciprocal, and when you do that, everything is going to cancel out. So notice they all cancel out, and it's equal to 1.